Hey, welcome to the Cam and Otis Show. Army buddy, a rain stealer, air cleaner, out in Utah, hanging out with us. We were just joking about our air quality here lately, and the fact that we can both see the mountains, unless y'all are getting too much rain. We got Carl Churchill, co-founder. I can give credit where credit's due. Co-founder.
That's right.
Yes, ma'am, or yes, sir, because I'm saying yes, ma'am, to your wife. I want to make sure she's included in this. Co-founder of Alpha Coffee, uh, and glad to have you here, man. Looking forward to chatting with you some more.
Well, I appreciate being here. I got my cup of coffee and I'm ready for conversation.
And that is an Alpha Coffee cup of coffee, and I'm going to go full radio on this intro here for a second, because not only does he have an Alpha cup of coffee at an Alpha Coffee house wearing his Alpha Coffee t-shirt, he's in the Roosevelt room sitting below Teddy Roosevelt's speech about the man in the arena.
That's right.
So just now that I painted my radio picture,
I love it.
Yeah, Carl, man. My first thought is, I don't have to ask why coffee, but why a coffee business? What got you? What made you just say, I can do this better than anybody else?
Yeah, good question. Lori and I, during the Great Recession, we got caught in a financial ambush. Company that I had started, or that I was a partner in, ended up going out of business. We were in the construction mortgage software business, and yeah, anybody who lived through that knows that story ends badly. So we were sitting around drinking some amazing coffee one day, and I said, "Hey, I have this great idea." It was September 2010, and we were thinking about what we were going to do next. And so I was saying online businesses are starting to grow, and so let's start a coffee company where we take this amazing coffee, this really good high quality coffee, and ship it to people's doors. And for every package that goes out, we'll ship the equivalent of a cup of coffee to deployed troops. So that's how it started. It was kind of a simple idea, and it's grown immensely since then. And I get to drink great coffee every day, so no complaints here.
So I've got a friend of mine who, he spent some time in Colombia back in the day.
Yeah.
And he's a coffee snob now. Well, has been for a long time, because all that time he spent in Colombia.
Yeah.
Are you a coffee snob?
I have to admit I am. I have a little bit of a similar story. I ended up going to Central America in the mid 80s. Was down there in doing operations with 7 Special Forces Group and a number of other organizations. And we would be on base in the hooch drinking crappy Folgers crystals or something like that. And then we'd go out and we're doing a little bit of foreign internal defense stuff, and we'd meet with local comandantes, and they'd say, "Café, sí," and you'd have it. And I remember taking that first sip, and I'm like, "What is this magical substance? This can't be coffee." It was amazing. It was really good quality, Central American, Honduran, Salvadoran, Guatemalan, Nicaraguan coffees, Costa Rican. And that's where I fell in love with that really good quality cup of coffee. So I'm a coffee snob. Yep.
Yeah, I'm curious, because it's a particular industry where the sourcing and those type of things can be big challenges. So I'm really curious, what were some of the big challenges you were facing in those early days?
Yeah, I mean, sourcing is definitely a challenge. I mean, we buy beans everywhere from Ethiopia to Colombia, Central America, Brazil, Kona, Papua New Guinea. really, the challenge is getting that good quality bean. A lot of people don't realize this, but in the United States, over half the population has a cup of coffee every day. So upwards of 160 million people have a cup of coffee a day. So there is a wide variety of coffee out there. You can get some real low quality stuff. And in the early days, we thought, oh, well, if we buy organic coffee, like that'll be the best. And then we would buy organic coffee, and we began to realize that some of the organic coffee is, it's actually, they market it as organic because it's a little bit lower quality, but they can get more money for it. So yeah, so there's challenges when you're going for quality. That is definitely a challenge. I don't know if you guys can hear it, but it is raining like crazy.
What that is? Oh man, I'm jealous. I'm gonna have to go run the water sprinkler here when we get done. But that's kind of that bait and switch sort of thing, ain't it? I mean, and I know it'll get Camden fired up, so I'm gonna be careful of what I say about the whole organic industry. But I raised my hand. I was at the store yesterday and had to buy organic bananas.
Yeah.
And boy. Don't ask
Hey,
me.
well, I was gonna say I could have a quick soapbox moment. This is one of those I've got down to like 20 seconds. I've got this thing polished.
All right.
But it's know the actual farm, know your farmer, and those type of things. Because the good actual organic stuff, the real organic, as I would call it, is actually really freaking good, and it's good for you, and it's healthy stuff. So the problem you get is that regulation wise, you got a bunch of things where it says you can only put like 10% strength chemical to make it organic, but then they apply the chemical 4 times because it's only 10% strength. Right. And there's things like that. So it's definitely one of those weird little bait and switch things that happens with the ag industry.
Sure. No, I'm with you 100%. It's like, know who you're doing business with, know who you're buying from, know the source of, where things are coming from. I mean, that's part of the growth of Alpha is people have chosen to give us their money because they know who we are as a company. They know what we stand for, and that we're giving back, and that we're ethical. We're a small family business. We're not Starbucks, we're not any of those big companies. We're, our son and daughter both still work in this business. They have since they were teenagers. And, Lori and I get up every day. We try to create a livable wage for our employees. We have a 401k, we offer healthcare. We do things that a lot of coffee companies don't do. And I think that's important. I think that if you're successful in business, you have to take that stewardship very seriously. I'm sorry, I'm getting a little serious here, but it's something that's close to my heart,
I think that's a great point. And honestly, I think it's something that we've probably touched around, but haven't talked too much about, which is, it's one of the beautiful things about, business and entrepreneurship. People tend to think of the person behind it being like the evil puppet master pulling the strings. But most people you talk to take the kind of viewpoint that you're having there. It's, I am in charge of this group of people, and it's my job to keep them safe, to keep them fed, to get their kids through college, like all this kind of stuff. Totally. And when you start looking at it through that stewardship mindset, like you put it, it's a much more beautiful place to live.
Yeah, it is. And I attribute a lot of that to the military. I tell people all the time, like, hey, one of the first lessons I learned as a leader is leaders eat last. It's like, you make sure that all your guys or gals have eaten first, and then if you run out of food, then you didn't take food away from somebody else. And oh, by the way, you learn a lesson. It's like, next time, let's make sure we have a few more bags of MREs for everybody. So.
Yeah, I've been on that end, not with MREs though, out of mermites, which
I got to ask, what the heck is that? I don't think I've heard that one before.
Oh, mermites. It's just it's a base. Think of it like canned food.
Yeah,
that's heated, but it's like it's a tray of canned food.
Yeah.
Oh gosh.
Yeah.
That sounds extra tasty.
Yeah, it's great. A funny story. So I was in Desert Storm with 1st Armored Division, and we ate MREs literally for probably 5 months. And then it was like the day after the ceasefire, they're like, hey, we're going to get tea rations and mermites. And we were all excited. So, you know, because you're not eating out of a bag. It's something that's like sat on the shelf for 40 years. And so we're all excited, like, hey, we're going to get this stuff. And we got chili mac for breakfast, lunch, and dinner for like 3 or 4 days in a row. And chili mac wasn't good to begin with. And so it was like, oh my God. It was, yeah, that was my mermaid story.
So that the boys and girls, the lesson learned there is careful what you ask for.
That's right. Exactly. Exactly.
We're gonna give you hot chow.
That's right. We're gonna give you the same thing for 3 days. Yeah.
But it's hot.
Yeah.
No, I love that. And you already touched on one of the things that you've brought into the business. But I'm curious, what other major lessons or things that you brought from your time in the Army, you know, your career in the Army, and it has really helped you be successful with Alpha Company.
Yeah.
Alpha Coffee.
Yeah.
There's a Freudian slip right there.
That's right. Yeah. Yeah. You know, I think there are so many things that I've learned. I mean, one thing for sure is, you know, that sort of grit and never quit attitude. I mean, I think that's something that most vets have in abundance. And it's, you know, if you can harness that, if you can do it in a way where you're not just being dumb about it and just banging your head against the wall, but, you know, being smart about it, like, hey, I know this can be successful and I need to be patient and I need to work hard and stay humble and, you know, just keep pushing. I think that's a huge one. Discipline. A guy told me one time that the what you get out of something is in direct proportion to the amount of effort that you put into it, and, you know, the attention that you pay to it. And so, you know, one of the things that we've done here, and this kind of coincides with your question, is we're all about culture at Alpha. And that's something I learned in the military, is that, you know, the commander sets the tone. And when you have a good culture and everybody on the team is working together and has each other's backs and, you know, knows what the mission is and are all striving together, then that culture will carry you through. And so, you know, we put a lot of attention on culture, and we build our culture here is very militaristic in a way. I mean, so our mission statement is 4 bullet points: awesome coffee, be a warrior, have fun, and give back. And that's what we're about as a company. And you know, I always tell people, like, if you have no direction on what to do in a given situation, just think back to those 4 bullet points, and that will get you through. You know, if it's somebody who's got a cup of coffee and they're like, hey, this just doesn't taste right, or there's something wrong with it, or it's like, hey, awesome coffee, that's easy, we'll fix it for you. You know, if you're doing something and it's not fun, then stop doing that thing. Let's make sure that we're having fun while we're at work, you know? And then, you know, it's just that culture is what brings us together as a team. And we go from those 4 bullet points, and then we have what we call our rules of engagement, our ROE. And, you know, the very first one is we win as a team. So it's all about succeeding as a team. Another one is you cannot not communicate. So, you know, bad news doesn't get better with age. If something bad happens, let us know about it. There's a whole bunch of them. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. You know, we have yeah, I know. I love that one too. So
I used that when I was coaching rugby. I used to teach the boys that.
Oh, I didn't know you coached rugby. I played rugby in the Army for a little while on Desert Legion team. Yeah, I was a wing until 4 Marines separated my shoulder and broke my collarbone in a game.
Ooh.
And then I was like, maybe I'll stop playing this.
Yeah. Well, Camden still coaches. He's at the University of Arizona coaching there, and he's got
Oh, that's awesome.
a little kid
Well,
thing that he coaches too called Engage Rugby. So yeah, just give it a shout out to that.
well, and I think that the whole I gotta make sure I get it right. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. That translates so into rugby, and it makes me think, because I would love to hear you two especially talk about this a little bit. But I know it was the old Kiwi general that you've talked about before, Dad, that said that the best simulation for warfare is the game of rugby. So all the soldiers in his group had to be playing rugby all the time. And I think it's interesting how well a lot of the lessons from your Army days, Dad, back then, and Carl, I'm sure you've had the same kind of experience, how similar the lessons are that you learn in a game of rugby, and how they translate from your time in the Army over towards rugby.
Yeah, rugby is awesome. I love it. I think it's great because you have to quickly reorganize on the field. You have to be aware of everything that's happening. You have to work together as a team. You got to, get the ball out. You got to protect, but you also have to attack. And, it's a great game in so many ways. We actually have a professional rugby team here in Salt Lake, the Salt Lake Warriors or the Utah Warriors.
Utah Warriors, yeah.
Yeah. And I love going to the games. It's great. But I always have buddies with me and they're like, okay, what are they doing now? Why did he just kick that? Why didn't he just pick it up? I'm like, it's a knockoff. You're trying to explain to them everything. But it's a great game. I love it. I don't know about you, Otis, but for me, it's awesome.
Yeah, I mean, it is a great game, and Camden's the one who got me into coaching, and I never played until I was 52.
Awesome.
So, I mean, it's as my buddy who was my coaching mentor, Kiwi, he used to say it's a lifelong game, and yeah, it really is. And there's so many aspects of it that apply to life and business. Whenever I start talking about a sport and applying in business, I always think of, Yogi Berra, the greatest sports philosopher ever. But in that same sense, how life imitates sport. When you think about rugby, you can't win alone.
Yep.
You've got to overcome obstacles. There's always something or somebody looking to hold you back or stop you, and then take the golden egg from you, quite literally. And then, so how do you do that? How do you deal with that? What do you do with, are you using the other 14 people on the pitch, or are you just you and one other guy doing it? And all these sort of things apply to life in so many different ways, if we choose to look at it. And I think that's one of the great lessons for me about the game is how much you can take from between the touch lines and apply it to business, apply it to life, just in so many different ways. So
yeah, that's awesome.
Yeah.
I'll tell you the very first game tackle I had was a Polynesian guy who had some steam, and I tried to do a stand-up football style tackle, and he literally knocked me out. I mean, I literally, his knee hit my forehead. A few minutes later, I was wandering around, wondering where I was. And one of the guys pulled me aside and he said, and this is kind of one of those life lessons too. He said, listen, man, when you see a train coming, you don't have to stand on the tracks and try and stop it. Just try and derail it. Get off to the side and derail it a little bit. And I thought about that. And I thought, sometimes you have these challenges that you can kind of see coming, whether it's the economy, a pandemic, whatever it is. Don't just stand there and try and stop it by yourself. Try to hit a glancing blow, and try and slow it down, try and knock it out of your way. So, yeah. Anyway, that was a hard lesson to learn, but I learned it pretty quick.
I'm pausing because Camden learned that same lesson with a good friend of
my
his.
good buddy Felipe.
Yeah, Felipe.
Yeah. Oh my gosh, knocked me out cold, man.
Oh yeah. Yeah, definitely.
Yeah. Well, I think that's one of the other things while we're talking about the life lessons from rugby is you get them fast and you only make those mistakes one or two times.
That's
Like
right.
I've
If you're
coached,
smart.
I've coached and played with so many guys coming over from football and they're like, well, why do you hit like that? And all this kind of thing. You try to teach them ahead of time. And then one time they're in a game and they put their head on the wrong side and they get that knee to the forehead and you go, oh, well, you're not going to do that again now, are you? You know, pain's a great teacher like that.
That's right. That's right. I love it.
Well, you touched on something too, because I wanted to jump into this. Is what has been some of the biggest challenges that, you know, since 2010? I mean, that's, y'all been around for a couple of days now.
Yeah.
You know, what's been, you know, give one or two or just pick out one and let's kind of talk it through and how y'all handled it.
Yeah, you know, I think that one of the challenges early on was that, you know, I'm the eternal optimist. I'm the guy who, you know, when they say take that hill, I'm like, okay, let's go take that hill. And then I'm like, we can do this. We can do this. So early on, you know, I was convinced like, oh, it's only going to be a few months and then we're going to get lift. That runway is twice as long as you think. And, you know, it takes twice as long to get lift under the wings to really get going. So early on, the challenge for us was, I realized pretty quickly that, you know, we weren't going to get the traction we thought we were right out of the gate. It was going to take a while. So, you know, I had to get a daytime job. I had to get some income coming in, make sure we were good to go. And when that happens, you know, you're working nights and weekends and lunchtime and, you know, vacation and all that stuff. So that was really a challenge. But, you know, we pulled together as a family and we used slave labor. Our children were not paid. And then, you know, we got to a point where I felt like I was in the back of a pickup truck and I was trying to jump onto a train, you know, and pickup trucks going down the dirt road next to the train tracks. And it's like, when do I jump? When do I jump? You know? And then, you know, I just decided we got to jump. Let's just do it. I'm going to quit my daytime job. We're going to go full time. But we didn't do it like haphazardly. We built up this fund, you know, we did. The lesson is that you can't just send it, you know, you've got to have a plan A and a plan B. And, you know, you've got to have that safety net. So, you know, we saved up enough money that we knew I could quit my daytime job and I could not take pay for, you know, 6 months while we really ramped it up. When we put our full attention, my wife and I, on the business, when we were both full-time every day doing it, that's when we really started to gain traction. And you know, we pivoted from just purely online to actually having a coffee shop, because everybody kept telling us, your coffee's so good, you really ought to open a coffee shop. So, you know, it was good to listen to people and let it marinate a little bit and then say, yeah, that would solve all these problems for us. So we did that jump out of the back of the pickup truck on the dirt road to, you know, the back of the train, and then things started accelerating. So I think, you know, I always say I'm not a gambler, but I'm willing to bet on myself, you know, and I'm going to do it in a way where, you know, I'm going to have a backup plan just in case it fails. So I think that's one of the big lessons for us was there's a bunch of lessons in there, I think, is, you know, believe in yourself, but have a backup plan. Know when to commit 100%. Don't just send it, you know. I mean, there's a lot of things there. And when you have your 100% of your effort and intention on something, that's where you're going to realize your greatest return. So,
yeah, you know, one thing that you're mentioning there that I think is an interesting lesson that people could be able to take away from it is like talking about getting into the physical coffee shop. because having an online business, there's a lot of perks to that. And, then going into the brick and mortar aspect, that's a business decision, all on its own. But what I think is interesting from it is you were saying that you were kind of getting that feedback from people. And so I think that's where it's really interesting, because I think most small businesses have been there, where you have this one thing that's going pretty well and everyone's like, oh my gosh, you got to try this, you got to try this, like, why haven't you done this yet? Like, you got to launch more brands right now. And it can be really exciting and makes you feel good about your business, definitely. But if you start going out onto those different limbs a little too quickly, things can fall apart. So what was that decision process like for you?
No, that's a really good point, because we constantly get feedback. You guys ought to do instant coffee. You guys ought to do this. There's like a million things. And so
everybody's a good idea fairy, right?
That's right. Yeah, the GFI fairy, good freaking idea. So we're for us, it was one of those things that when I kept hearing that consistently, like, you guys ought to open a coffee shop. And for us, it was, we had an ulterior motive as well, as everything was in our basement. I mean, our house smelled great, 400 pounds of freshly roasted coffee in the basement. But we wanted to separate work and life a little bit more, and we were outgrowing the basement. It's like the neighbors were like, hey, I saw that truck back up to your driveway and drop a pallet, of coffee there. And it's like, they were kind of hinting around, like, maybe you ought to get a warehouse or something. So we were wanting to get out of the basement, and we were struggling with this idea of, like, how do we be able to afford the rent on a place like that? And then, we started thinking about it. It's like, all these people were saying, open a coffee shop. And we're like, yeah, the coffee shop can pay for the rent, and then we can operate the online business out the back. And I also, I'm always about diversification, like having that fail safe, that backup plan. And so that really helped us during the pandemic. Was we had the online business and we had the coffee shop. And when the clamp down came and people weren't allowed to come in, you could only do curbside delivery, and we have no drive-through here. Our online business boomed. In fact, we looked at it and we said, let's launch on Amazon, because everybody's buying from Amazon right now. So, we've grown our Amazon business in the last year as well. And don't get me started on Amazon. Those guys are pirates, man. They keep so much of the profit. But, it was one of those things where we were like, we're listening to people, we're watching. You have to know your area of operations, the environment you're operating in. You have to, I'm reminded of, there's a book called We Were Soldiers Once and Young by Hal Moore. And I love the book. And one of the things I learned from that is, he's in Vietnam in a drop zone, or in a landing zone, an LZ X-ray. And he's literally fighting for his life with his unit. And every once in a while, he would just turn all the radios off, and he'd just sit there and think, and he'd be like, what am I not doing? What do I need to be doing for an hour from now, a day from now? What do I, not just reacting to everything that's happening. And so that's kind of what we do as well. We're like, okay, what's happening now? And then what's happening in the environment we're in? What do we need to be thinking about for, tomorrow, next month, next year? Sorry, I kind of went off on a whole bunch of different tangents there, but I think maybe I've had too many cups of coffee this morning.
Oh, no such thing, is there?
No such thing, right?
I was gonna say tangents are the beauty of podcasts. I would say.
Right.
Well, and I'll just say, that is an amazing story about, we were soldiers once and young. But I'll also throw out I don't know if I want to call it modern sense. I'll put a plug in for a Texas brother, Keith Cunningham, and stupid. Oh man, I just drew a blank on the book. I was talking to somebody about it yesterday, and I don't remember. But anyway, Keith Cunningham talks about that same thing, taking a quiet moment every day and just asking yourself 3 questions about what's next.
Yep.
And
Yeah, no, I think it's critical in life, in business. It's so easy to get caught up in the day to day and what's happening around you. And we have so many distractions from social media, 24/7 news, all that stuff. And it's like, at the end of the day, I want to be a better father, husband, I'm going to be a grandfather in November. So I'm super stoked about that. First grandson.
congratulations.
Yeah, no, it feels great. And I want to be a better, mentor, boss, all of those things. So thinking about how you can do that and not getting caught up in like, did we post on Instagram, or like I've got 500 emails to go through or whatever, it's important. We need to take that quiet moment to think and plan,
Yeah, I'm going to butcher this quote because that's kind of my MO. But I believe it was Sun Tzu who said, tactics without strategy is a recipe for failure. I doubt he said recipe, but
yeah, for sure. That's it.
Yeah. So that's great. And I think it's an amazing thing to think about, and kind of, man, I tell you what, you can tell we had a little bit of a similar background because we're in the right flow, because my next question is, so what's next? If with Alpha Company, golly, here we go again.
It's okay.
Oh man.
Hey,
Those guys in Alpha Company, they were always a pain in my neck too. Probably why they keep
yeah, we used to, people ask me all the time, like, where's Alpha come from? And I said, this isn't how we named Alpha, Alpha Coffee, but when I was in basic training, I was in Alpha Company, and it was Alpha, best of all, first to fight and last to fall. It was like, that's what we yelled every time we were called to attention. So I'm with you. Alpha Company it's okay.
Yeah. So, all right, I'm going to slow down my talk and might get the right words out this time. Alpha Coffee. What's next with Alpha Coffee? Where do you see y'all going?
Yeah. So, Alpha Coffee, our future is, we're trying to grow this into a larger coffee company. So we'll continue to do wholesale. We have a number of mostly veteran-owned coffee shops and coffee trucks that buy coffee from us and serve it in their coffee shops. So we want to continue to grow that wholesale component of it. We're in 17 Sportsman's warehouses right now, including the one in Colorado Springs. So we're trying to grow that relationship and expand within Sportsman's warehouse. That's the wholesale side. Online, we've grown to where we are with literally no marketing. And that's kind of crazy because you can do so much with digital marketing. So we've been trying to, get smart about how to do digital marketing. And we've hired some experts to help guide us through that. So we're about to turn up the volume on digital marketing and really spread the awareness of who we are. Because, I've always said, like, if people come and check us out and see what we stand for and what we're about, and then if they taste our coffee, they're going to be like, okay, it's superior coffee. It's really tasty. And this is a company that I think has ethics and is authentic and isn't just out there trying to make a buck. It's not a themed coffee. It's actually a company that provides, great coffee and takes care of their people and gives back. And then, we're right now, we are in the midst of rolling out a number of other coffee shops. So we have 2 coffee shops in Salt Lake right now. One at the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon, one in West Jordan. We're about to open one up downtown Salt Lake City. And then we've got about 3 more behind that we've got in the works. One of our big challenges is access to capital. In kind of a weird way, the pandemic has helped with that because the SBA has kind of loosened up the purse strings, so to speak, where they're giving out loans with less collateral requirements. So that's going to help us. I mean, we grew $500,000 during the pandemic. And it's because we had a battle plan and we executed it well. We didn't shut down. We didn't lay anybody off. We were like, we're going to go through this as a team, and we're not going to quit. We're going to figure out a way forward. And doing that, when a lot of other coffee shops shut down, we were the only one, and people would come by here and they're like, wow, I never knew about you guys before, but your coffee's great. So that's the future. Our goal is to grow to a point where we can really become one of the best companies to work for in Utah. We want to pay people well, give them that 401k, give them that healthcare, give them a lot of other benefits, and really teach them the warrior lifestyle, the warrior ethos. So
that's great. I love that, and thanks for sharing that vision with us, because that's exciting. Looking forward to seeing how that shapes out, and just watching from the other side of the mountain range.
Yeah, there you go.
and occasionally, I don't make it down to Sportsman's Warehouse too often, but I also know where you're at online, so that's
that's right.
Much easier than Sportsman's Warehouse from where I'm. Great, man. So let's shift gears to, well, what'd you learn? So man, I got lots of fun things that are good reminders. But I think might be in the truest sense of that. The altruism of what I learned is that 160 million people have a cup of coffee every day.
That's just in the US. Yeah.
That's right. That's just here in the US. That's a couple of gallons of coffee flowing out every single day. So, wow. Carl, what'd you learn?
You know what? I learned that you can start rugby when you're 50 years old and survive. So that's one thing. One of the things I learned is that, when you get a chance to sit down and have a cup of coffee and talk to a couple of people that you just met, you find all kinds of commonalities. You find ways, that's what we need in this country, is people to come together and talk to each other, and I think if we just slow down, have a cup of coffee, and talk every now and then, even with strangers, good things can happen.
I'm hearing a theme in the brick and Alpha Coffee brick and mortars. Maybe what I'm visualizing is the fest tents in Germany.
Yeah, right.
You had those fest tables, right? And everybody just ends up sitting together.
Yep. I like it.
You need to change your seating arrangement.
Yeah, I like that.
Camden, what'd you learn?
Bad news never gets better with time. I love that. I love the way you put it. I had heard it differently of it's easier to cross a creek at the start, not once it becomes so nice and wide. So when you have something bad, work on it right away. Don't let it get worse.
Yep.
Great. So, Carl, how do people, go ahead and give us that, even though we know what it is, how do people find Alpha Coffee? Where do we go online? Where do we go when we're in Salt Lake City, that sort of thing?
Sure. Yeah. Online, we're at alpha.coffee. It's pretty straightforward. There's no .com or anything. It's just, www.alpha.coffee. If you're on Amazon, you can just look up Alpha Coffee and check us out there. If you're in Salt Lake, we're at the mouth of Big Cottonwood Canyon. And we've got an amazing coffee shop here with some of the best views of the Wasatch Mountains. If you're in West Jordan, we're right next to Legacy Shooting Center over there. So you can grab a cup of coffee and then go rent a saw and shoot a saw. And soon we'll be open downtown. We'll be right downtown, about a block and a half from the convention center on Regent Street. So yeah, that's Alpha. And come in and ask if Carl and Lori are around. We always like to meet our customers and say hi and have a cup of coffee with you.
That's awesome. That's awesome, man. I appreciate you sharing that and appreciate your time today, man. This has been a lot of fun. And yeah, I can't wait to get my cup of Alpha coffee, and get it going. So looking forward to that.
I appreciate that. Thanks to you, Otis and Cam. It's great meeting you guys. Hopefully this isn't the last conversation we have. Would love to have you guys come out and visit. If you're ever out looking, to explore Utah, come by. We'll drink a few cups of coffee.
Oh, no doubt. There's no doubt on that schedule. I can tell you that. Camden, run us out.
Thank you all for listening to today's show. Special thanks to our guest, Carl Churchill, and our sponsor, Tribe and Purpose. Find your tribe, find your purpose. You can check out recent episodes of the Cam and Otis Show on Spotify, Apple Podcasts, wherever you get your podcasts, and check out a full archive at thecamandotishow.buzzsprout.com. The Cam and Otis Show is on Facebook, Instagram, and Twitter. Thanks again, and we'll see y'all next week.